Hey, welcome to Awake Radio tonight on our next edition of Organic News with me, Catherine Waters, and we already have Dan Bidondi with us. Thank you for being available, Dan.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Say hello to our wonderful audience. It gets broadcast over another site called Ciaozzo.com, and the show goes worldwide. We get a pretty good range from what I've been aware of. And so before we get into, things that have been happening with you, because I thought it was a fairly, important thing to mention this thing that's going on in the news in Kenya, Africa. Christians, I don't know, they're called Christians, and they're slaughtering with machetes and burning alive suspected witches.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, we know they ain't real Christians, because real Christians wouldn't do anything like that. We had the same problem here in America, right here over here in Massachusetts, Salem, where so-called Christians were burning witches and everything else. And the other thing is too is you got to question which sect of religion are they? Because like during the 600-year Inquisition, people go, oh, Christians killed, murdered innocent people. No, it was a Catholic Church. They murdered Jews and Christians for 600 years for having the Bible and whatnot. But that's the thing is you got to try to get which sect of religion there and all that other stuff. But and the other thing too, if they are Christians, okay, they're going to suffer that same condemnation. I seen the video; it was disturbing. Those 3 people there were burned and all that. Those people that did that to them are going to suffer 10 times worse than what they did.
It's as if everyone is just self-appointed. Like they just self-appoint themselves. Whatever authority, some Christian, whatever, that gives them the right to slaughter other people. But I just, before we moved on, I wanted to let everyone know who you are.
I'm a correspondent reporter for Infowars.com. I'm a researcher. I am also a talk show host myself, and I've been a historian in the New World Order, the Illuminati, the occult, all that stuff, because, God says to know your enemy, then expose them. And that's what I do. I study the enemy, everything about the New World Order and everything, and the false religions and so on, and I expose them.
Right. On that, what you just mentioned, I hear a lot of people always talking about, don't be negative. There's a lot of that that I find, don't be negative, be positive, be happy. And that kind of is in a bit of a contrast to what you just said, which I think is what kind of causes a lot of our problems, people wanting things to be nice and turning away so much from.
Oh yeah, I got kicked out of churches. I don't know how many churches I got kicked out of, because the thing is, the whole plan about God, right? He wants you to not worry about the stuff, because if you know where your soul's going, don't worry about it. But however, this is where they fail to understand. We're not being negative, because people follow the Bible. It's strictly in the Bible saying that if you don't go out to the world and tell them what's to come and tell them the stuff that's going on, you're what Jesus calls a lukewarm Christian. He'll chew you up and spit you out, slam the door in your face. And he says to know your enemy and expose them. And God wants fearless warriors, people who are not afraid to stand in the face of tyranny, and are peaceful at that. You don't go killing people, but peaceful, and expose them to their faces and to the public. And the thing is, you see these the mainstream Christians, okay? I call the mainstream because they go by the churches and everything else. The Catholics, the same thing. They're all the religions at that, actually, that claim to use the Bible, but they don't listen to the own Bible they're using. They want you to stay in your pew, keep your mouth shut. Don't question authority in your government. Do what you're told, and let God take care of it. Now, and they use the term, oh, Jesus says turn the other cheek. Yes, he did, but only when somebody insults you. But you are not supposed to turn the other cheek when tyranny rises, because if you look all through the Bible, all the, like Samson and what's his name, I forgot his name, Hagar, whatever. They stood up and killed tyrannical armies. Shamgar killed 400 Palestinians by himself because he was sick of the oppression and he was inspired by God.
I mean,
But
if we,
I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead. Just finish that point.
Okay. Well, long story short, our founding fathers and the people, not all of them were Christians, no, but the majority of Americans back then were. And that's what led them to defeat the world's strongest and biggest standing army. It was the inspiration of God, because even the British were puzzled and dazzled. What is driving these people? You know what I mean? And we overcome the world's strongest army. But the long story short, yeah, if you're not aware, if you're a Christian out there, if you are not aware of your enemy, okay, you yourself, the Bible says, even the elect, which is the believers, will be deceived. And if you are not aware, you are going to be deceived by the New World Order.
Because it really, that term, Aaron Russo used it, in the interview that Alex did with him some years ago when he said, it's like a magician's trick. It's sleight of hand. And, I kind of started calling it sleight of mind, because it can be so subtle and so I don't know, besides subtle, what other word?
Like cleverly displayed, like.
And right, like, the thing is that you really have to be, I use the word engaged in life. You have to be fully engaged. You can't be really just turned off. Most people just don't really realize how little of our full capability. You hear people talking about that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think people really understand the reality. Like, I don't think that people really get how little of our full capacity that we are, trained to use, and so to whatever extent that we're not using the rest of our ability, that much of yourself is going to be being used against you. I've been trying to teach this to myself for a very long time. I've always, I was never a political person. When I was young, I got into like alternative healing, meditation and yoga, which I really am like a huge advocate for yoga practice. I kind of wish I was more of a martial artist. Like, I wish I kind of got more into that stuff. But, to a point, yoga practice is very similar to martial art, although it's not a fighting or anything like that. But it's about using your full capacity. It's about tapping into all that you are and integrating all of the parts of yourself physically and emotionally, so that those parts cannot be used against you.
Well, see, the system, the way the system is set up and designed is they don't want you to do that. They don't want you to know that you're a human being. They want you to know that you're nothing but a robot, a number, a slave in the system. You do what you're told, keep your mouth shut. And, and this goes on. Every religion is guilty of this equally. I don't care if you're Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, whatever.
Right.
They don't listen to like Christians. They don't listen to their own Bible. They rather listen to stupid dogmas like the Catechism, the Book of Mormons, and so on. But everybody's trained to be sheep and keep your mouth shut. But the thing is, we're supposed to be we want to be a peaceful people. We want to live our lives without being bothered. We want to be peaceful. We want to explore the vastness of the universe. We want to, achieve greatness in science too and everything else. But the thing is, we can't do none of this because we got a group of elite that's a common enemy to all of us, no matter what your belief is. And we got a group of these elite that want us dead. They want us dead, plain and simple. They want you dead physically and spiritually.
And that whole turning the cheek thing, more people should maybe, turn the cheek, to your fellow man and stand up to the new world order, but instead people turn the other cheek
Well,
to
it's the
complete.
churches manipulate that because Jesus said, yeah, somebody insults you, whatever, yeah, whatever, you have a good day, turn the other cheek. But he never said to turn a cheek against somebody physically
Yeah,
putting you in tyranny, you know?
I mean, you keep turning your cheek to the new world order enough and to the blatant corruption that's been going on. I used to struggle with that a lot myself. Just kind of being imbalanced, and you're brainwashed to not be angry, or like you're bad for standing up for yourself, like you're a criminal if you don't let people walk all over you or something. There's got to be a balance in life. I mean, you have
Well,
to.
there is, and there's two different angers. There's the anger people get, whatever, and there's a righteous anger. A righteous anger is something that comes out of you. In other words, let me put this in a scenario. Okay, somebody punches you, get angry. Yeah, you can control your anger. But if you're standing there, right, and just say three guys are brutally raping a woman right in front of you, and you know you could do something about it, and you don't, and you feel this thing inside you growing like a fire. Okay, that's not you. It's not. There's something in you, and that's called spiritual righteous anger. That's what Jesus used when he
Yeah,
tipped the tables over in the temple.
I mean,
But that's the anger that righteous anger. That's the anger that the founding fathers had. That's the anger that people across the planet had who wanted to fight for their freedom.
well,
That righteous anger.
yeah. I mean, if I could just sort of comment, because that's what I sort of feel like the problem is, though. I'm going to blame everything on this. I'm not going to call it capitalism again, because that's not what it is. But the problem is that our natural instincts and that natural response, the valid anger that you were just talking about, has been completely skewed, because valid anger at your job, needs to be swept under the carpet because, you need your job. And so you have to just keep quiet. And I think that's what destroys people, is because, like, they get so used to, like letting things go, not responding to valid anger. And your example with the rape, and how it's a normal response, obviously, to step up. But I always talk about my favorite quote by James Madison, who talks about how it's the slow and gradual violations by those in power, it's more dangerous than sudden and violent usurpations. He doesn't say it exactly like that, but it goes something like that. It's the sudden and the violent, the slow and gradual, the everyday things, like when you're at work, and slowly but surely your morals are being eroded when you look the other way, when your company or something, office politics is like dysfunctional or something, and then there's maybe robbery going on at work or whatever the hell it is, and people just don't stand up to it, and it's that over time stuff, to me, is much more dangerous in the long run than the all of a sudden kind of no-brainer things. And even that stuff people don't always respond to.
Absolutely. And then, in our Declaration of Independence and all that tells us, those who have the ability to take action to do it, it becomes your responsibility to do so. You know what I mean? And, it's like you can't stand around and let tyranny take place, no matter what. You know what I mean? There's going to be great sacrifices you're going to have to make. But, like today we got going on. We got a gigantic gun grab going on now. They want our weapons because they know if they take the weapons away, they could do anything they want, just like Hitler did, Stalin did, Mao did, Fidel Castro did. You take away the weapons, then you have tyranny. And they know, because George Washington said, guns are liberty's teeth. And I'm not branching off the subject. I'm just showing that, tyranny is, the freedoms we have are under attack. And unless good men, like Edmund Burke says, the only thing evil needs to succeed is for good men to do nothing. And unless we do not, if we don't do nothing, we're going to be living in a tyrannical regime right here in the United States within the 4 years, not even.
Well, that's like I kind of think of it as a form of societal climate shift. It's like people's sort of psyches have kind of just deteriorated and kind of diverted so far off course that that normal response isn't there anymore. There's just like a lack of response coming from people, and
Well,
it's
it's
like
the dumbing down of society. That I mean, like plain and simple, it's the pure dumb. They started this, especially in the mid 1900s. They really started hammering it to us, and it all goes back. I mean, people could you could be atheist out there, you could be a whatever your religion is. It all goes back to spirituality. Spirituality. Now, if you look at the stats, when they took prayer out of school, when they took the time and dedication for God out of school, not only the child pregnancy rates in schools went up, the school violence went through the roof.
yeah.
Child obedience just disappeared completely. Kids think they can do whatever the hell they want when they want, and all that stuff went through the roof, off the charts. And people say, "Oh, why is that going on?" Because the thing is, when you take away a spiritual aspect of a person, you take away. That's the foundation of morality. That's the foundation of actually having a conscience. Of actually thinking, "Oh, wait a minute. If I go punch that kid in the face with the stupid knockout game they got going on, I have nobody to answer to." But if they have a spiritual connection, say, "Oh, wait a minute,
Yeah.
my God says not to do that. That's not, wrong. That's wrong, and it is wrong." And they think twice. You know what I mean? And same thing with all this stuff going on. And what they're getting taught in school, it's okay to have sex. I'm not. I want to state one thing. I'm not a gay basher. I have friends who are gay, but I hate the sin. And I can't judge them because I sin myself. Not, I sin, by swearing sometime and everything else. It's just as bad. But the thing is, I don't throw, stones in a glass house. I have friends who are gay, whatever. But the thing is, the sin of, it is a sin. But the thing is, in schools, they teach you, oh, no, don't talk about God. You bring a Bible to school. That kid up here in Massachusetts, he drew a stick figure of a cross with Jesus on it near Christmas time a couple years ago. They suspended him and had the kid and the CPS go to the kid's house and put him up for psycho evaluation and all that. And the thing is, they wanted to destroy it. It was part of the Illuminati's plans back in the late 1700s and the early 1800s especially. They wanted to destroy the fabric of God altogether, of the schools, out of the whole system of the United States. They tried to do that by restaging the Second American Revolution, like they did with the French Revolution, but they failed. So the next thing was called Frankenism, which is infiltration. They infected the religions and the churches from there on the inside, spawned off all these religions and cults, and this New Age dogma and everything else. They're the ones who even created atheism. They're the ones who pushed evolution with Charles Darwin. His whole family were all Masons and all in the occult. Charles Dawson and Teilhard Chardin, they're the ones who single-handedly pushed evolution through the roof. And it was all an occultic agenda to dumb down society, to make them dumb down because they want you spiritually and physically dead. And they want a perfect new world order. They don't want to share with no one. And they won't tell the lower levels that their God is Lucifer. They believe Lucifer is God. And people think Darwin and all them are atheists. No, they're not. Darwin and all them, they believe Lucifer is their God. And we have a spiritual battle going on here on the planet. It's either, you have all the lower levels that think other things than the lower levels for a reason, because they want you spiritually dead.
And
at the top of the pyramid, you have, the Luciferians, and you have the people who believe in Yahweh, God, and it's a battle going on.
Now you sound like John Bradshaw. He always used to talk about Yahweh. But the breakdown of the family system has always been one of my most passionate subjects. And when I heard Aaron Russo talk about, how it was all a big plan, Rockefeller Foundation funded Women's Lib, to get women out of the house because they couldn't tax half the population before. It really didn't surprise me to hear that. It sounded right when I heard him say it, and and to me, it's just it's like like masculine to the extreme, like masculine to like, it's like everyone has to be masculine in this world, even women. It's like the over masculinization, you know,
Well,
where it's like we want to destroy like every shred of like gentleness, every shred of compassion, nurturing, caring has
Well,
to
that's what
be
they're
just
all about. And the whole women's lib movement, it started off as a great thing because women wanted the right to vote, which I think they should have a right to vote. And it started off as a good thing. And same thing with the hippie movement. It started off as a good thing, and until the Rothschilds with that Kabbalah magic hijacked both movements. Now they had what's the name Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood,
uh,
hijacked the women's lib, and she was promoting Kabbalism, basically Satanism, right in people's faces. With a triangle over her head, that was a famous symbol. And when you get into the hippie movement now, the flower power, the tie-dye flower power, the colors, and the flower power, the peace symbol, and the peace hand gesture are all Kabbalah magic. And people think they stand for peace. No, they don't. Because the symbol stands for the hatred of Christ. It was created by Nero in Rome. The peace symbol, that's why Nixon, when he went over to Germany, he gave a speech. Everybody started applauding him. But when he raised two hands, there's a famous picture of him holding up the double peace sign. See, the Germans knew that didn't symbolize peace. It's like giving somebody the evil eye of the middle finger.
oh really?
It's a Kabbalah. It's an evil eye. It's invoking the power of the beast. And the Germans knew that. That's why they started booing him when he, put up the double peace sign.
That's why
And
I like to keep things simple, like I never was political really or religious. To me, everything is just about nature. To me, it's just we need to reconnect ourselves back to the way that nature works, the way the body works, the mind-body connection, and be as close to nature as possible. Like it's for me, it's just that simple. I mean, of course, it sounds simple, but it's really not because because we've been so diverted away from it, and it's really so evil what's going on that they take things that are normal and healthy and try to make it be like sick and like there's something wrong with it. Like they just try to keep you so confused. And I think it's really important to meditate and to just exercise and be in touch with, things that are, like a no-brainer. When I used to weight train a lot, and now I pretty much just do yoga. You interact with your body, you interact with physics. The answer you get is the answer you get. The answer is the answer, like it or not. And so the idea is to just accept that. It's, like with yoga, it's so wonderful because it's like, the pose that you can do is the pose that you can do. Do the pose you can do with integrity. Don't, you have to, suspend your ego and stop trying to like do poses in life. Stop trying to be something in life that you're not, and just be, where you are, be who you are in the moment. But, in this society, it's like, they're always using and trying to tap into your low self-esteem to get you to,
that's the psychology of it. They want to, that's why they get the police state going on. Years ago, you felt comfortable being there, a cop. Now you feel like intimidated because they get that Gestapo look with the black on. They look like stormtroopers. And the thing is, every part of society, they want you to feel low and, degraded. Feel like they want you looking at boots, in other words.
Well, that's what I mean. Like they don't want you to have any self-worth. If you have self-worth and confidence, they can't get over on you. And that's why, the debt, to me, is not a monetary thing. It's right. It's a health issue. It's not having family. It's not having people, there to treat you well and to help you to feel good about yourself. If they could break the family system up and keep you in an emotional deficiency, they can, forget it. There isn't anything that they can do, that they can't do, to get over on you. It's this guy, I was so glad this caller on Alex Jones yesterday said it. I was so glad to hear this caller say it because it was so true what he said. He talked about, I forget exactly who he was referring to, but he was saying that in order to catch wolves, that they take a knife, dip it in blood, and then stick the knife in the ground. And the wolf comes over and starts licking the knife to lick the blood off of it, cuts his own tongue, doesn't know the difference between, his own blood and the blood on the knife, continues to lick the knife, which just creates, like a debt situation, and of course, leads to the wolf just sort of, cutting his tongue more, which just makes him bleed more. And that was I was literally jumping around when I heard this caller was a really good, good caller, because
that's good.
I would always refer to exactly that, I was an EMT for the fire department in New York for 7 years. And I used to think about, the initial signs and symptoms of when a person was going into shock. One of the first symptoms would be an altered mental status. Once your blood level starts going down, your mental status goes. And I came to believe that that's pretty much the way that we already are living. Most people are in a state of altered mental status, a state of deficiency where we're not really, fully, living at our mental capacity. And when this guy called and said that, I was like, oh my God, yeah, I was so it's so true. But if we could move along to your poison veterans story that we're going to get into, and then we're going to bring from the site called poisonveterans.org, Sal Ciaozzo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ciaozzo, yep. And it's a horrible story, and a lot of people out there know about the story about Camp Lejeune. It was a camp from Marines. I'm sorry, it was a Marine camp there where they trained, and it was poisoned. But this makes Camp Lejeune look like a walk in the park. They got a list of over 800 chemicals that they know of so far. And out of the 800 plus chemicals, there's 200 and I think 37, I'm not sure. 200 and change of them are on high priority list of chemicals. That's anywhere from PCBs to all that stuff. Sal, he's got all the stuff on pat. He's got all the the data and all the stuff on this stuff. But long story short, they were basically downstream from Monsanto. Monsanto dumping PCBs and all that stuff in the water-grown GMO crops over there. Of course, feed them to the military people. And the military guys are filling up their canteens all the time, and they're filling up their canteens full of PCB and toxic radiation and all the other stuff. And not only Monsanto, it was also a dumping ground for the U.S. government, dumping toxic waste there, nuclear waste. The places was rated the most poisonous place on the planet by the EPA, or 60 Minutes, I believe. But it's just crazy stuff, and it shows you that when you grow up, you think joining the military is the right thing to do, and come to find out of all of it, not only do they toxify you, they pump you full. When you stand in line at basic training, you stand in line, and as you go up in line, you have one person on each side poking you full of inoculations. There's several of them, and you have no idea what any of them are. You can't even ask what they are. They poke you full of all these vaccines. You have no idea what they are. Then they experiment on you. I did a report for InfoWars last year about them experimenting on the military with different things. So, they tell the troops they got to go test new weapons and all that. Of course, anybody's got to jump to do that. But they get there. It's a medical facility, and they're being tested with radion gas and all kinds of other stuff. And stuff is, makes sci-fi look stupid. And people think Return of the Living Dead, when the movie started coming out, it was a gas that animated living dead creatures. If you think that's science fiction, no, it's not. This is back in Project Paperclip, back in the 1930s and stuff. German scientists actually did this to dead corpse animals and everything else. They did this. They, of course, it's not you coming back to dead, but that's where the Universal Soldier movie came in. If you think it's just a movie, no, it's not. This stuff has been going on for a very long time. And what they do is they toxify people. And this is another reason, too, where they're promoting, they say they're against it, but they're not, of people using all kinds of drugs, mind-altering drugs, and also marijuana. And I don't condemn anybody who smokes it. If you smoke it, God bless you, or whatever. But they want you to be high all the time, because if your state of consciousness is any way altered, they could manipulate you easily with the mind control devices. MK Ultra and all that stuff. That's why they want everybody dumbed down, drugged up, and stupid out in the street, because they could easily manipulate you to do anything you want and keep your mouth shut.
So for people that don't know, can you explain what the MK Ultra is?
MK Ultra is like the CIA. They're in the UK, whatever, and the Russians too. And basically they're a secret service, sort of like secret agents, like like the CIA is. They're an intelligence agency that spies on other countries, like the James Bond stuff and all that. And it consists of that, and what they do is they come up with technology to subdue the populations. And if anybody doesn't believe in mind control, there was a bill in 2001. It's called HR 2977, the Space and Preservation Act of 2001. Right in the bill talks about mind control, mass mind control weapons on the population. It says right in the bill, it was shot down and never passed, but it shows you. And the government brags about it all the time, but if you talk about it, they label you as a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we've been telling people for years that the NSA's been spying on you, and all of a sudden it comes out in the mainstream media. Now we're not conspiracy theorists no more. But yeah, they have a thing called Gwen Towers, GWEN. You can research the information on this. They basically hijacked Nikola Tesla's technology, so to speak, and used it, and created these mind control devices and everything else. It's sick stuff, and that's a whole story on its own right there. But the thing is, they want the population dumb as a doornail. That's why the United States, if you look at the rates in the country, compared to the world, we rank, I think, number 17 in the most education companies. No, most IQ, the average IQ in the country. And I think we're in the 30s or something for the most educational. And we continue to fall every day. Now we get taught we're the smartest people on the earth, blah, blah. No, we're not. Not even close.
Well, we're supposed to be the richest country. I mean, I don't know where they get that. Rich in what?
I mean, in the UK, I think the average income is a lot greater, even though they use the pound. But compared to U.S. dollars, the UK has a greater income than we do, and it's just like, our society is crumbling. I mean, they lower the SAT tests for kids in school. They lower the standards to make think the kids are getting smart. My kid could use a computer. I could never do that without. No, your kid doesn't mean your kid's smart, lady. It means your kid's being dumbed down as we speak. I mean, with the fluoride they put in the water, Harvard study proved that it reduces IQ over 10 points. Yeah. They proved that. And not only that, with the GMO foods, with the constant brainwashing that goes on in the schools. And the school is not an education system. It's an indoctrination system. That's where the basis of it all starts.
Decades ago, if a baby was born, the mother would visit the doctor or whatever, and if that baby wasn't developing properly, by a certain amount of months or weeks, it should be gaining a certain amount of weight, or by 6 months or a year, it should be saying its first words and stuff like that. And if the doctor noticed any kind of sign of maybe it wasn't the child wasn't developing at a certain rate, it would be obvious maybe there was something wrong, and I think about today's society and how we have, grown adults, people who, can't even hold a job, or, people, like grown adults working in minimum wage jobs. I mean, if that doesn't tell you that there's something wrong developmentally, like that's not normal.
Well, they brainwash. Join the military, we'll take care of everything. I got told that lie myself. And again, you come to find out, you're nothing but a guinea pig for experiments. And not to mention that most military, that's why they are at the top of the terrorist watch list. Returning veterans and Christians are the number one terror threat in America. Not Al Qaeda, not Muslims, but Christians. And this is a Homeland Security's Endgame and also Project Megiddo from the FBI. Anybody wants to research this? And Southern Poverty Law Center says this. They are the number one terror threat because they realize that the war on terror is nothing but bullcrap. They know the CIA orchestrates this whole thing. There ain't no, the Al Qaeda is nothing but a boogeyman created by the CIA. They know the Bin Laden thing was a hoax. That Obama never caught and killed Bin Laden. Yeah. And the whole world knew he was dead since 2001. That's why Al Jazeera News and everybody else laughed at us. What are you, retarded? It's like, he's been dead for 10 years. It's like, it's just like our country is so degraded in education. And we say, we got the best colleges. No, you don't. You got the best indoctrination systems. So, the colleges dumb you down even more.
And put you into mega amounts of debt. But Dan, let's bring Sal Ciaozzo. Can you say his name? Sorry,
Sal Ciaozzo. I have a hard time pronouncing his last name too. He's a good friend of mine too.
Oh, okay, and he's it's poisonveterans.org is the website. And he's going to talk. So he was obviously a veteran. I guess we'll just introduce him.
Yeah, he was a veteran, special ops and all that. And but poisonveterans.org, folks, we encourage you to go out there and donate because we're not on. Actually, I'll leave this to Sal because this is his gig here. And hey, Sal, how you doing, man?
I think is he on?
I seen him popped on. You might be muted or something.
I think Paula must be trying to get him on.
Yeah, it's poisonveterans.org. We have a donation page down there. Anybody wants to donate money because, it's a grassroots thing. We're not funded by, bankers and everything else. And because we're actually trying to expose the very thing the bankers love, is Monsanto and everything. And, we're trying to bring compensation to all the veterans. I think it was over 700,000 veterans that served there that have all been poisoned. And that's not counting the joint operations with the military forces. That's not counting the civilians who served there in the commissary and everything else that, got exposed to this stuff.
Okay, I'm trying to add Sal to the call.
Hello.
Oh, there he goes. Okay, hey, Sal. Got it. How are you?
Okay, how are you?
Yeah, we're really good. Tell us about the poisonveterans.org and how you got into this stuff and what you know.
What I know is a lot, and it would take hours to talk about, but I'll be brief. Basically, I went into the Army in 1981-82, and went to Fort McClellan, Alabama, for military police training. Anyway, going through life and everything, I would say probably about 10, 15 years ago, I started getting sick. I also had problems with my children also being sick. My oldest had a rare type of cancer to his jaw.
Okay.
And I would say, and keep going to the doctors. They're not giving me any answers. What's wrong? Nobody could figure out what was wrong. I kept on getting worse and worse every day. About a year and a half ago, I noticed an article in Law Enforcement Today, and it talked about poisoned patriots of Fort McClellan.
Oh, boy.
When I saw that, I really got very, very upset. Felt very betrayed and everything else. What the article had said was that the town of Anniston, Alabama, which is where Fort McClellan is, basically sued Monsanto. I think we all know those guys, right?
Who? What was that name again?
Monsanto, those people that are trying to kill us all.
What is the how old is Monsanto? When did they start? When was their
the turn of the last century, I believe. Really? It was way back.
They're that old.
It was way back. But anyway, Monsanto paid off the town $700 million because of all their PCB leaks.
God, it sounds like an Erin Brockovich nightmare.
Yeah, well, it's worse than an Erin Brockovich nightmare as far as I'm concerned, because there's a lot of people involved here. But the conspiracy doesn't stop there. And by the way, I like to say these are conspiracy facts, not theories, because I have proof.
Exactly.
It doesn't just stop there. I mean, Monsanto had their PCB issues. People there to this day still can't mow their lawn without a mask on. Children can't play in their yards. All sorts of stuff happened. Now, we go forward to the U.S. government, and we also find out that they were doing all sorts of crazy things, like using live chemical agents on base, because that was also the chemical school. And of course, you know, you drink the water, you do this, you do that, you crawl in the dirt and the mud and everything. I mean, the place was like full of different types of chemicals, such as Agent Orange.
And so they were doing it deliberately to just poison you guys?
Well, they said they were doing it for the training of their chemical school. Now, mind you, back in 1970, I forget what year it was, there was a treaty put on about using chemical weapons. But yet we're using them at home? Does it make sense to anyone?
No.
No, not at all. But anyway, they started doing that stuff. There's also arsenic there. I have had, you know, proof that I've been arsenic poisoned as well by non-organic arsenic.
Yeah, so they found all this stuff in your blood? They found arsenic and...
No, it's actually in the fat. After years go by, what these chemicals end up in your fat, the heavy metals end up in your fat as well.
Oh, wow.
So every time I go to lose weight, I start to get sick. I got to be very, very careful what I do.
Yeah, because losing the weight actually releases the arsenic, right?
And the arsenic and God, the PCBs and God knows what else I have in me.
Wow.
Now, after all this is said and done, I mean, we still also have at the range depleted uranium was used there. I mean, they tested everything there, everything and anything possible.
So this
and
is the 80s you're talking about, the 80s?
Yeah, the 80s, yeah.
But this started back in the 1930s, is that right?
1933 was when the base opened. And then it closed in 1999. It closed as a Superfund site for EPA because it was too contaminated. In fact, I have an article. Excuse me?
A super what site?
A Superfund site. Just look up Superfund EPA, and it will tell you the definition.
Superfund, okay.
When it's so contaminated, they turn it into a Superfund site, and they say, okay, we have to put all this money into this to clean it up. Well, anyway, the BRAC, which stands for Base Realignment and Closure, met in 2005 after the place was already closed anyway. And the woman there, she was one of the board of directors of that base realignment, spoke. Her name's Miss Schneider. She spoke and she said that they have to realize that at Fort McClellan, most of the property needs to be fenced in, and all we're going to be able to do is just watch the bunnies and the bugs walk around, and we will never be able to use that land in our lifetime. To me, that's guilt 100% of the way.
Right.
Unfortunately, the government doesn't want to understand that, and we're still fighting to get, a health registry done.
I mean, what is the cause of the epidemic of denial in our society? And
well, I'll tell you what.
In our leadership.
In my investigations, and of course, I'm an investigator. I was also in law enforcement and everything else. In my investigations, I have always, I have this one little thing I always say, and it's follow the money.
Oh, yeah.
You need to follow the money. I mean, this stuff goes back even to MK Ultra.
Yeah.
CIA had their Polygraph Institute there at Fort McClellan. They'd ask for volunteers where they would inject them with something, wouldn't even tell them what it was.
Oh, boy.
And unfortunately, in 1950, by the way, there's this doctrine, it's called the Ferris Doctrine, saying that you can't go after the military or the U.S. government. for anything that happened to you while in military service?
Well, of course. I mean, like, this is what I'm saying. They have the whole system rigged so that they can do whatever the hell they want to you, and like, you can't do it. You can't do shit about it.
Another thing, they've affected our children.
I mean, it's such blatant psychosis, man. I don't know what the American people are waiting for. I really don't. You know, I mean, like, let's get them before they get us. I mean, really, are people just going to really wait until they're being hauled off to a FEMA camp? Or, I mean, I think, again, today I was hearing about, I don't know how Bloomberg has any authority because he's not even the mayor anymore. I don't know, maybe he's not.
Oh, yeah, well, but he has his own foundation.
He's supposed to be making flu vaccines in children, like, mandatory. It's like, you know, like, are you kidding me? I mean, I really want to curse right now, but I'm not going to.
Okay, neither will I then, I promise.
I mean, it's just like, what the freaking hell, man?
Well, listen, it's nanny state written all over it. I have documents that show from 1941 on up. Have you guys ever heard of Paperclip, Operation Paperclip?
Yeah, I have, actually.
Operation Paperclip, for those of you out there that don't know what it is, was basically towards the end of World War II, the United States government brought in about 1,000 scientists, Nazi scientists, into our country, and they turned around and they just went around the Nuremberg trials, and that was it. Everything was all kosher and everything. And they kept up their scientific studies here in the United States because they were looking to make the super soldier.
Right.
I got proof.
I'm pretty sure that Jesse Ventura talks about this stuff in one of his episodes.
I've been trying to get to Jesse.
Yeah, he should change the name of his show from Conspiracy Theory to Conspiracy Fact.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean...
Conspiracy Facts.
What?
Listen, I was in Kosovo. I got shot in the tibia. Now, you figure this one out.
Ouch.
And different weird things have happened to me, too.
Gotta hurt.
I got shot in the tibia, right where there's very little skin right down by your shin.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? The bullet bounced off my bone and just dented it. It didn't shatter it.
Well, that's how strong the human body is. Bone is very, very strong.
The human body has been manipulated to be.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they change around your chromosomes and your DNA, where your child ends up with a rare type of cancer that only an old man gets in his jaw, which, by the way, he's 24 now, and he still needs surgeries, and I'm still going through all this stuff.
So this is your son?
Yeah. My daughter, she has an issue with her back, some type of degenerative scoliosis type of issue on her lumbar, not even on her cervical, because usually that happens in the cervical, the scoliosis part, not the lumbar. And my youngest has another issue with his jaw that's a degenerative issue.
Yeah, there's something, I would say...
Is this coincidence?
I mean, to have all three of your children having some sort of, it's a problem with the bones in each case with your children. It's not like, one has a blood disease, one has...
Nothing at all. I mean, everything.
It's all bone related, it sounds like.
Bone and hepatic related, too, because my daughter, for instance, she also has an issue with her liver, with the enzymes, that's like as if she drinks. And I have the same problem, too, and I don't drink. Don't like to touch the stuff. Stay away from it. And my enzymes are still off at times. So's my daughter's. So it's just weird. I mean, coincidences? Is this something that runs in the family? Not that I know of.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know that you had those chemicals in your blood, like they found the stuff inside your body, and you were sick. So it can't just be like I'm sure that they would love to just make it some kind of a coincidence.
Yeah, but it's not going to be, because you know how many other people are involved with this, too. We got a lot of people out there. We have groups and stuff like that. There's a lot of people that are sick. A lot of them. And
so what is the plan? Like, what is the poison veterans doctor?
One of the plans is a congressman, actually from New York, Tonko, I don't know which district he's from, put in an HR for it, a House ruling for it, like 3 different sessions. And now it's in its 3rd session. Right now it's called HR 411, which is a health registry act for Fort McClellan, Alabama. They keep on not letting it go ahead. Then there was the point where last April they also did another resolution for NDAA. So Tonko kind of like put in an Amendment 83. I mean, the guy has been trying to help. Put in an Amendment 83 saying that, just telling the Secretary of the Army to notify all veterans that were at Fort McClellan to let them know they could have possibly been contaminated.
Right.
It struck that. NDAA, as you know, got passed, but that amendment got struck. Didn't even want to talk about it. So something.
I mean, so then, right. So then the politicians, they don't want to be bothered. Like, they don't want to, I mean.
Someone keeps on blocking it.
It just.
I guess what it might be, but I'm not sure, so I can't say.
Because I mean, like after a while, it just, I mean, like, this stuff just becomes so blatantly obvious that, there's so much corruption. And then when you try to, get the help that you need, even the people that you're turning to get blocked. And
oh, of course, they turn you back. I mean, I understand. Now, listen, there were every single, branch of the services went through Fort McClellan if you were either an MP, which means military police,
right,
or NBC training, which is nuclear, biological, and chemical training. The Marines went through there, the Navy went through there, all of them went through there. So you go figure how many people there could be.
So how many veterans are involved in the poisonveterans.org?
Poisonveterans.org is something I started. I've always been I've always been the activist of everything.
Yeah.
A lot of people, from what I've been seeing, that are on the groups and stuff, they are afraid. I don't know of what, but they're afraid to stand up against big government, I guess.
How many people are with you?
Well, people with me, I've got a few here in Rhode Island. And then there's over 1,000 people in the groups.
Oh. Okay.
Not everyone knows about it. We need to get the word out for anyone that was at Fort McClellan to say, hey, okay, now I figured out why I'm sick. But a lot of people don't know about it. They still don't, because they've been keeping it under wraps big time. That's why I started this Poison Veterans. And that's why I'm doing the radios. That's why I'm doing everything and anything just to let it be heard and tell them, hey, this is what's going on.
Why don't people want to stand up? I mean, have they been?
A lot of them are afraid.
I mean, but afraid of what? I mean, they kind of already had,
But they're fine with sending in the form letters. They're fine with doing all that stuff, to Congress, to the different representatives. But however, it's like they just stop there. I don't know. They I guess they need a push or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they definitely do.
I don't know. It's complacency 101, like the rest of the country.
And so you're trying to sue? Are you trying to sue Monsanto?
Well, the problem is Monsanto was a government, was working for the government at the time, making Agent Orange as well there. And a bunch of other types of chemicals that the Ferris Doctrine says anyone who is even working for the military can't be sued either. So it's very difficult. So now we're trying to do another stance and say, okay, what about our children that got problems? Let's let them sue, and we'll continue pursuing the rest.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Then they say, oh, your children of veterans are not allowed to sue, too,
Well, no, because there's certain laws there. I mean, there was one guy, I forget what circuit court it is, the 9th, is that the one in New York?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
9th Circuit Court, does that sound familiar for New York?
Yeah.
Okay, the 9th Circuit Court.
I'm going to look it up just to make sure, though.
Judge there, Weinstein, turned around and made you not able to sue pharmaceutical companies and stuff like that, especially the children of the veterans.
It's like the most ridiculously, blatantly up thing I've ever heard in my freaking life.
You know, this isn't a country. You realize that. We're a corporation.
I can't believe that the public, I just can't believe that the public puts up with this crap. I really can't.
Well,
really, really can't.
You have to figure it out this way, too. Everything at that base, whatever produce and perishables we'd have, were locally grown. And whatever was locally grown was laced with PCBs. They were feeding that to us, and they knew about it because in 1966, Monsanto sent biologists out to check out the situation. And these biologists, they threw fish. They threw bluegill fish into the stream. And they said within minutes, these fish were dead. Their eyes would pop out and stop bleeding. And it was if the board, because their skin just slothed right off.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and Monsanto did not let that out. They just kept it for themselves. Business as usual.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty scary world. I mean, I don't know. I guess the public they're just going to wait for their skin to start frothing off too before.
No. Even if that happens, they're still going to be too busy watching the Super Bowl, American Idol, and God knows what else. I'm sorry to say that, but it's the truth.
I mean, I know, I try so hard not to get cynical, but I can't help it. It's really scary. It's like
my dear, just remember what happened in Rome. Before Rome fell, they had the Circus Maximus, they had the Colosseum, they had games going on every single day to keep people's minds off of what was going on.
I mean, but that should be an alert. I mean, like I mean, we have a heads up. We have more of a heads up today. We have the internet. I mean, they didn't have the internet in Rome back in the day, I mean, there's so much information out there. It's ridiculous. It's right in front of people's faces. Yes,
but most people aren't going to, look at this. They're not going to look at it this way.
Oh, God.
They just look at, I want a comfortable life, and that's it.
Well, they're not going to have a comfortable life. That's the
of course
problem.
Not. Especially all these GMOs they're feeding them, they're putting down their throats now.
Oh my God. Well, anyway, let me just I'm on this Superfund site, and so this tells you where in your area, like the land is.
See there? You'll have to look for Fort McClellan, Alabama, or you'll have to look for the Anniston Army Depot, which is one and the same.
I mean, there's a little map here, Superfund region cleanup sites.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Alabama is what? AL? There it is, region 4. I don't know. Let's see what it says. What is that?
That was my phone going off. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I thought.
I love my ringtone when people are in the car with me and they start looking everywhere.
Okay, agencies work together to protect public health in central Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it says anything about Fort McClellan.
Well, it might say something about Anniston. It might say something about the Anniston Army Depot. But the big thing would be that you can turn around and you could look at, my website, poisonveterans.org.
Yeah.
And I have a resource page in there, and it shows all sorts of incriminating evidence from EPA, from ADAM, which is the Alabama Department of Environmental Management. You'll find a lot in there.
Okay. I tried to find your site before. I'm not sure if I was on your site exactly, but it would seem
PoisonVeterans.org.
Yeah.
I'm the only one.
Okay. It's like a list. It seems okay. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see this one before. Okay. This one looks good. Obama signs Monsanto Protection Act. I'll just read this. While Monsanto executives may be rejoicing behind the closed doors of their corporate offices, they have also just stabbed themselves in the heart with the blatant and cocky decision to go through with the Monsanto Protection Act. I think I heard of this already.
That was last. That was last year. Actually, I believe in September. It ran out. Thank God.
Oh, here, Fort McClellan. If you served at Fort McClellan, the most toxic place. So, I mean, Fort McClellan is more polluted than China? Because I thought China was.
Yeah, it's more polluted. 60 Minutes said it was the most polluted place in the country.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the 60-minute U.S. military toxic secret.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I watched the documentary Death by China, and I mean, because China's got absolutely no environmental regulations at all, and you know. Anyway,
going on. This is what we're dealing with.
I would love to have you back on sometime in the future, maybe for some updates and to keep people informed.
Fine by me.
But like it's kind of looking like we have to go to a break soon, and then kind of move the show along. But so again, the website is poisonedveterans.org.
That's correct.
For for lay people and even military veterans or anybody else maybe who feels and was at this Fort McClellan for any length of time can get in touch with you. And say your name.
My name's Sal.
And
last name's Ciaozzo. I'm the founder of poisonedveterans.org.
Okay.
And we're trying to do research, and I'm trying to get myself down there right now because, we get stuff offline, we get all sorts of other things, but I need to talk to people down there and investigate even more. I do have a donation page on there.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to help,
we could all use that.
Really be appreciated.
I need one of those.
Huh?
I need one of those too.
Mm-hmm.
I know, we all need that.
Yeah.
We could all be each other's employer and employees.
Well, yeah, kind of, sort of.
Okay, Sal. Bless you.
Bless you too. Thank you.
Okay, and I don't know. Dan Bidondi might have hung up, but I want to say thank you to Dan. Anybody can look up Dan Bidondi. He does the InfoWars Nightly News. He's got a YouTube channel.
You're listening to Awake Radio. Straight talk for the awake and aware.
So we're back, and we have Chris DiMaggio on the line, who I met September the 17th, the second anniversary of Occupy, again on that line outside of Pace University where all kinds of heated arguments were going on. And I think I did my radio show live from my cell phone that night, and I'm not sure if I got to you, Chris, and had, did I?
Yes, you did. You did get me.
Okay, so why were you on the line at that event for the Moreland Commission investigating corruption?
Well, that is the reason we were there. We were trying to see if we could make any input into why there was corruption in the system and what we might be able to do about it. And we were hoping that the commission was going to give us that opportunity. But as you may remember, the commission they weren't really up to what I would say honesty. They weren't honest about it, and they screened a lot of people out on the floor.
Right.
And and we had a tough time getting in and a tough time giving our testimony. I spent a couple of hours getting testimony ready, and we all, like a lot of us, went down there and spent a lot of time.
What were you going to testify about?
Most of my issue, I'm a mediator, a divorce mediator, and most of my issue was going to be about the corruption in the system in the divorce court.
Right. And corruption, and so what would that corruption in divorce court be?
Well, judges make decisions independently on a myriad of divorces without any rhyme and reason, and my moniker is you can't adjudicate a divorce. Divorce is about a relationship, and you can't adjudicate a relationship. So what I was always trying to do is I was trying to ask the system to let go of the need to have to apply a rule or a law on a relationship, on a divorce, because it really wasn't easy to do.
Well, isn't that sort of like the whole problem with capitalism? Is that, like the society is trying to force our man-made systems on the natural world. And right, marriage is like part of the natural world. I mean, it's not really part of capitalism, but they're trying to make it so.
Well, either whether you're a socialist or, a capitalist country, your opportunity is going to be limited to the governmental structure above you. So your opportunity as an individual is going to be limited. In a country like socialist countries that are governed primarily by law of a right or hand, you don't have as much opportunity. You're treated more equally, but you don't have as much more opportunity to present a case. In a capitalist country like ours, we have more opportunity to present a case, but the law above us stops us from being normal. So either one of them can be corrupted. You can be corrupted either way. If you go to any of the other socialist countries, the biggest corruption is in their black market, and they have huge black market issues. So whichever style of government you choose, you're going to have a certain amount of corruption. It's inherent in hierarchy of management of countries.
It's funny because just like debt is built into the system, so is corruption really. I mean, it's
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. As long as you have debt, you're going to have corruption because,
there's always be somebody trying to acquire your debt to make you indebted to them, whether you're in our system or in any other system. There's always going to be some inherent corruption.
And so go ahead, finish saying what the corruption is in the divorce court.
Well, the judges can make decisions independent of law, and when that happens, because what law is there in a family that's breaking up? What law can you apply that's consistent all the way through? If Johnny needs a special aid in school, or if the mother was an adulteress, whatever the case may be, how do you apply a law to all those things? There really isn't. If you battle it out in court and you let a judge decide, well, ultimately, you're giving up your power. That's why I became a mediator. At least in mediation, you give the power back to the couple that's separating because you can help them. They'll make the decision. You just help them make it. You don't make any decisions for them. You just help them go along and settle their family issues in a way that works for them.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's not about trying to infringe, because I mean the whole point is it's supposed to be about the family.
Right.
You have to make it be about the family and not about whatever the court needs.
Yeah. How did anyone ever think that inviting somebody in to make a decision about their family would be a good idea? Just ask yourself that question. How did anyone ever think that, let me get this lawyer, let me hire this guy, pay him a lot of money, let him twist me in the wind and absorb my resources, and then go to a judge and have him make a decision where none of them, and neither the lawyer or the judge, ever meet your children? They don't have any idea what their needs are.
Exactly. Well, that's a problem in so many areas. I mean, in healthcare and because that's what happens when you make everything monetarized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We try to monetize the natural world, and it really is not. It's not going to work.
Exactly. That's exactly what you made a good point.
And there's going to be, I swear to God, like, I can't even, it's sooner or later, even if people don't step up or wake up, nature itself will kick in and take over.
I've been waiting for that for quite a while. I mean, if you think about it, we're divorcing in court now for a long time. So we're applying false and very shallow legislation. The divorce law is very shallow. If you say that, if you want to use a serious law like the adultery law, that's something, all right, you have to prove it. So you basically have to photograph somebody actually in the act in order to prove it. Otherwise, you spend a lot of money trying to chase this proving attempt. So it's always been here to see the logic, as you just said, to come back to a natural law at some point is something that would work. But there's too much money and power in the system for lawyers and the legal system to make money off of it, so there's no need for them to give it up. That's why we're trying to get a joint custody law, which will stop some of the battle, and we're trying to get a pro-mediation law to stop the battles.
So then, obviously that means that the courts are not really in the best interest of the family and what their needs are or what the kids' needs are. They're there for their own interests at the expense of the family.
Sure. How could they be for something when, if they solve their issue and leave the court, there will be no more money available for them for their families, for their systems?
So then, how does that play out? Like, what do the courts end up, doing to the family? Just
back to the corruption issue. It unnaturally corrupts the family. It takes a child and removes them to one parent and forces the other parent to pay. That's a very unnatural result, and that's the constant result in New York. That's our corruptive angle. So if you get a judge in there helping that along, that's corrupting the family. There's also a lot of bias. Custody is almost always given to women, 85 to 90% of the time. You can't tell me that 85 to 90% of the parents are good. The women are good parents.
Absolutely not.
You can't. So there's got to be some mistakes there, but we don't know where that is. But if a judge is only going to rule on it, they rule on case law, so they're going to make that previously corrupted case be the law for you. If you've ever looked at papers, you see that they have Smith versus Smith. And that law, that Smith versus Smith, that went to the appeals court, is supposed to somehow reflect exactly the situation that you had in your divorce. And the more that you look at case law, it's laughable. So the judges are sitting in a corrupt, automatically. I feel sorry for them actually, because they're in a corruptible position. They're almost always going to be in that position where they're going to corrupt the family.
So you as a mediator for these families, you're trying to protect them from the courts,
right?
Exploiting them.
Yes.
And so they're aware then that. So then I don't understand it. Like, why even be involved in the court at all? Like, do they have to be?
No, it's anger. It's the anger and acrimony that develops in a couple that's divorcing that causes them to think that they have to do battle, and that hiring a lawyer is something that's been going on for a long time. So it's really about bad habits. I call it the divorce. We live in a divorce culture. We've been living in this divorce culture for about 50 years now, since the 60s.
Yeah, the breakdown of the family system. I know, I grew up in divorce. My parents were divorced when I was at least 5. But they never got along even before that,
Yeah. But that mindset that you have to hire a lawyer to help you protect yourself when you're dissolving a family has no logic in it, because what you're really doing is you're really causing a defense. You're asking the lawyer to defend you and to protect you, which means what? It means you have to win against the other parent. Now, previously, you didn't have that scenario developed. So your husband or your wife that you're about to divorce was a unified effort to keep the family together. Now it's a disemboweled family, so you take one against the other, do battle with it, and the result is always the fallout. The children end up with all the dysfunction.
Exactly. I mean, to me, this is all part of the debt that children inherit. It's all part of the pollution that children are inheriting. And this is just another aspect of it. You know, it's just another aspect of like psychological deficit that children, you know, so not only are they getting a divorced and broken family and nobody setting an example of what a healthy, loving relationship looks like, you know, then adding to that the corruption of the court.
Right. They have two forces working against you. Your family is something you would want to try to provide protection for yourself. If you thought about it, wouldn't your soon-to-be ex and yourself, as in the phase of divorce, in that place where you're about to be divorced, wouldn't you want to make sure that your children don't fall into further harm?
Yeah.
So in order to avoid that, I always tell people the best way to do it is think of it this way: if you're about to divorce, you want to look at your friends and family first, because you'll get the most solid help from your friends and family. If that doesn't work, then you go to mediation if you have to settle a dispute, because in mediation you're going to keep your costs down, you're not going to blow it, you're not going to have the other side protect you or beat you up, you're going to be in a relatively neutral position. The last thing you want to do is hire a gun to go kill your ex in court, because the children see that. You know, any child you'd be surprised how young they can acquire the information that one parent is giving the other parent a difficult time in that separation. You want your children to say, hey, they negotiated that thing pretty well in the mediation setting, or by talking to Uncle Joe and Aunt Mary, and they were able to work through their problem, and everything's back to normal, and we're good.
Yeah. See, that's what's like, so, you know, people don't know where to turn. Like, that's what's so scary is that, you know, the family system is really supposed to be and intended to be, you know, that, you know, last kind of sanctuary for people to, you know, to find themselves, you know, where you can get your needs met and have your support. And then, you know, when that's breaking down, and then you turn to whoever, you know, you think the courts are supposed to be helping and protecting you, and then you find out that they're just kind of in it to be, you know, using and exploiting you. I mean, it can be like a pretty
sure. It's a self-exploitive system. They're in it to create. It's a business. Would you allow a business inside your family to decide for you anything? You don't really want to do that. You want to hire somebody who can help you, and you want to pay for somebody, maybe an accountant, to come in and help you with your family issues if you have financial concerns, but not one where you're beating up another accountant to win a battle so that one of you would lose. So it's a no-win situation, I think. And sooner or later, because everyone should know, and all your listeners, I hope, understand that most of this country already mediates. It's only in New York where New York has more lawyers than any country.
Really?
Yeah, there's more lawyers here than in any country. So they want to keep that going too. Pardon me?
Oh, you mean than any other state?
No, New York State has more lawyers in it than any country has.
Oh, what do you mean? Like New York has more lawyers than the rest of the world?
Than Brazil or Russia or Norway or Hawaii. It doesn't make any difference what country you pick. There won't be as many lawyers as there are here in New York.
Oh, I see. Wow.
Well, it's a heavily populated area, so that's certainly one of the reasons. And it's the money capital of the world here in New York. So there's a lot of reasons for lawyers to be dominating our culture and our society.
God, I mean, is that all anybody cares about? I mean, I just don't get it. Like, that's all people care about is money. I mean, what is money? It's nothing. It's like, so they're gonna. I mean, even these lawyers and judges, don't they have kids? Don't they, like, you know, want to leave a nice, caring, honest, decent society to their children?
Well, it's power, Catherine. You know, there's a lot of money and power together work hand in hand, and they do carry our system. I'm against how the system is in divorce court. In other courts, for instance, courts of equity, for instance, contract law maybe, or immigration law, that kind of thing. I suppose there's lots of reasons to have lawyers and lots of reasons to have rules of some kind to work with. It's the matrimonial sector that's the most objective. And if you want to check this out, talk to a bunch of divorce lawyers, independently and privately. I have many friends who are divorce lawyers. Most of them hate it. Most of it's blood money.
God.
It's blood money. You're taking the money from the family that they ordinarily otherwise use in the resources to either reclaim an existence independently or to maybe reconcile. In our system, we have no reconciliation process.
Oh, really? Why is that? Well, I guess that's that's kind of not really a. I mean, that's an obvious answer to that.
Yeah, because there would be no money in reconciliation. Although one of the things I'm working on is to have a mediation forum. It's developing this now. I'm trying to get some legislative support for it now. But in New York, I'm in the worst state of all to try to get my. If I had to try to start a battle and win, I would never come to New York. New York is the hardest state on divorce law, the hardest state to overcome an objection or an error in the system.
Does it, people may be more and more finding out that the court system is not there to help them. I mean, would you say that would be a push for families to try to stay together? Is that, like a possibility, or is that not happening really?
No, not really. I mean, divorce stayed in the vicinity of 50% still, which is high for most of this country, but in other countries it's not as high. For instance, there's only one country that divorces at even close to the rate as ours, and that's England. And then they don't have even half as many divorces. There isn't any other country that's even close to ours. So we've set up for ourselves this practice of this divorce culture to accept all these things that we go through and allow that corruptive aspect, which I was trying to address at the Moreland Commission, to come to bear. And let's take a look at this. Why do we have to divorce in court? Why do we have to put a family through this? Why do we have to ask the children, who are not really part of it, but are the financial aspect to gaining and winning and losing? You can't win or lose very much if you don't have kids.
Yeah.
You have an asset to deplete, but ordinarily, if you don't have children, you divide what you can as close to 50% of whatever is equitable, and then you move on. But the kids are the pawns in the system.
Yeah, it's really, really sad. You have a TV show, right?
Right.
And what is your TV show about?
Well, I do a lot of these issues that we're speaking about now, divorce culture and aspects of it, the psychological ramifications of it. I do some political programming that's attached to it, usually when it has something to do with either a hot-button political issue, like, for instance, the recent the gays in the military or women in the military. There's a hot-button political issue. They've been debating them for years. So or abortion for that matter, I'll take these hot-button political issues and I'll put them on the table and see who I can get with me to discuss or debate these topics, along with matrimonial sector issues like what are lawyers doing in court. The titles to my program will be We Have a Divorce Culture, What Can We Do About It, or Mediate, Don't Litigate, things like that.
It's I don't know. I was like a teenager or whatever, because I grew up in some domestic violence and divorce, when I was fairly young, and I never wanted to grow up and repeat that. So maybe I was like naive, obviously, but I read a lot of books about, like healthy relationships. People, you might think it's a little bit funny or whatever, but I was reading Barbara DeAngelis, and back in the 90s, I was already kind of getting older. The most important thing in the world to me is family. If you don't have a family, if you don't have that
connection.
That level of fitness. I just, usually call it like a level of fitness, And so I was always trying to, like I was a big exercise person physically. And this was, I felt like I really needed to arm myself and read these books and I spent time, at this yoga center in Massachusetts that used to talk about, conscious communication skills and using I statements. When you want to communicate with another person, you refer to yourself like I feel such and such, rather than you did this and you with the finger pointing. They would encourage you to just say, I feel, and take responsibility for your feelings rather than be blaming other people. And Barbara DeAngelis, that was back in the day where, VHS, tapes were still around. And she would go through these exercises with couples and how to communicate and, mirroring techniques. So, one person starts and they express themselves and then the other person expresses, I don't, we got to start arming ourselves. Like, that's what I mean. It's like we live in a debt society. So that means that nobody's going to help you to get on the plus side. Nobody's going to help you to be fit. Nobody's going to help you to be in shape for any of this stuff. All they're going to do is ram the onslaught of it, down your throat and it's like, whatever, the Three Little Pigs. If you didn't build your house out of bricks, man.
I recognize the conspiratorial aspect of what you're saying, and, a lot of people do claim that there's an awful lot of reasons why we have to protect ourselves. Certainly, education is a big help, and communication is something we all have to do.
It's all about fitness. People need to be fit. Like, you can't just just like you have to exercise every day to ward off, disease and stuff, you have to exercise your relationship every day to ward off, divorce and because this system will, in no uncertain terms, it really is a monster. And I'm not saying that it's easy by any means at all, but
we have all these elements in place to work against you. If you want to talk about the nuclear family's best case scenario, you'd have to go back to the 50s to see where there was one parent at home all the time and one parent out to work. Why is that best? Well, that was the most successful period of time that any world has ever had, never mind New York or a country.
Yeah.
But I don't imagine we could ever get back to that, but I do want to reflect. What were those significant factors that made the 50s work? We weren't divorcing. We weren't that high-paced. We had someone home all the time. Look at it this way. Where we are now, you have to send the man out to work, and now we've educated women, and women have been educated on their own to develop the same scenarios that the men are facing out in this world. So now, where it was a domain for man to be out and a woman in the house, now it could even be reversed, and nobody would even know because no one's concentrating on it. But if you put a man out to work and you put the woman out to work, who's watching the kids?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why, children have a lot of issues these days because there isn't anyone.
Exactly.
There. There's no one.
That's it. Mm-hmm. There's nothing to rely on.
Right. Kids, more than anybody, they need stability. They need reliability. They need
protection. They need protection, nurturing. They need everything that two parents can give them. This is why New York is backward also with that joint custody law. They don't have a joint custody law. Why? Practically every other state has one. Because if you give a joint custody, there'll be nothing to fight over. Therefore, the lawyers will make less money. Therefore, the system will be less bigger. Therefore, the government intrusion will be minimized. All the right things would happen with the joint custody law, yet we have no power to do that is a battle. It's a battle for us.
How much money do these freaking lawyers need? They have enough goddamn money, How fucking rich do these fucking evil sons of bitches want to get?
Yeah, look at the nature of where we are now with law schools, because law schools are trying to keep students away at this point, because there's so many law school graduates now out in the field. We're becoming inundated with lawyers, but that on one hand will be good because they'll have to find other work, but unfortunately, because of the high education skill level, in communication and finances and stuff like that. A lot of them are going to take jobs where a person who was in the finance or skill level position, maybe upper management, would be taken now by a lawyer coming out of law school. And therefore we stay in the realm of law. We need to move law away. We need to move law away from our house. We need to settle things in mediative and arbitrative type format so that we can come together on issues a lot more peacefully without spending so much money and losing our resources in the process.
You know, we need more people like Lynn Stewart to be lawyers.
Lynn Stewart. Is he the one that went after Sheikh Mohammed?
Yeah. She's got cancer, and she, you know, I mean, just because she was just trying to do a good job for her client, you know, and they got her on like, oh, you know, like conspiring with the enemy, all kinds of bullshit, you know.
Well, you
like,
know that sets a match to the example, though, unfortunately, because she was doing something that may have been good in a protective sense for her client, but that in any way didn't do any good for anybody else.
But the thing was, like, they released her or gave her like a pretty short sentence, and then it was something that she had said, like, you know, when she was outside of jail, something along the lines of like, you know, like I would have done the same thing over again or something like that, you know, and you know, that they like the judge gave her like another 10 years or something completely over the top ridiculous, you know.
Well, I don't know. I don't remember the incidences of the decision. All I know is that she was not thought of well by advocates in legal reform. I don't know how you felt about it personally, but I think when you get to be in that kind of position where you're defending somebody who's somewhat of a obvious criminal, I guess, I don't know how else to put it, then it never looks good. But people have to do that in our system. I can get that, but I think some of the things she said and did, I think, were where we all had to draw the line. I think the judge finally drew the line there too. How far do you go with something that, you know, doesn't appeal to you? It didn't appeal to the public.
I mean, like she knew the guy. I mean, like you know, the thing that it comes down to is that, you know, it was her client. She got to know who he was. Like, no one else really got to know who he was. I mean, she's there, you know, and when you're there, when you're the one that's there, you know, you have no choice but to go on what you see and feel. And that's, you know, it's impossible to be trying to convince other people, you know, what you're seeing and feeling and getting them to understand and go along with it. And sometimes you just have to, you know, go along with what you feel.
Well, in my mediation practice, if I were to have that client in a mediative position as a neutral third party, I could probably think clearly about what might help to formulate. That wasn't the situation. That was something that either had to be was convictable or wasn't convictable. I can't. I'm not prepared to go too far into what the cause of Lynn Stewart was, but I can tell you that I think most issues that people face can be solved in mediation. There's a few countries, by the way, that decided to go the mediation route and just throw the lawyers out of the adversarial nature. The adversarial law is the problem. I think it's Australia or New Zealand, or maybe Australia and New Zealand, just basically said, all right, no more litigation. Everything has to be mediated.
Well, I mean, that makes sense.
Of course, due process. New York was a due process. I mean, New York is not just New York. We live in a due process country, so you have to have the right to defend yourself. You have to be able to have the right to hire a lawyer if you should need one. There's certainly times when certain things that might be provided, but when you take the idea that New Zealand said, all right, that's it, we've had enough of this wasted energy and wasted resources, and we're going to get rid of all the lawyers, and they did it. And they just said that the whole country is mediating now. So that was a kickoff sign. I think there's a few other countries in Europe that are going that route. I think Germany is too.
I mean, that's what I mean. It's I don't know. Actually, I'm not exactly sure if what I'm going to say fits 100%, but I mean, like, we need more prevention. Like, we need more but see, like, I don't think that really fits what you just said, because it's still like after the fact. I mean, it's still,
No, it actually does work. If you're talking about prevention, it actually would work that way, because what we're doing as mediators was preventing further losses. We're preventing. We actually are protecting the couple in the divorce, for instance, without them even knowing they're being protected, because we're not really providing an access point for a punishment. There's no place to go. You either decide to sit down and relax and have a conversation about how you want to solve your issue, or you move on to some other more painful process like litigation.
You know, and
go ahead.
What I was going to say was, I mean, like, what's starting to come to me is this documentary called Money and Medicine that I watched a few weeks ago, and these doctors at this like really good hospital called Intermountain in Utah, who are able to keep the costs down because so much of a lot of the medical things that they do for the patients actually harm the patients. And I mean, this hospital gets less money by putting the patient first, but they actually opt for that choice to put the patient first and go without, you know, getting all this money. And so it's, you know, like, that's what's starting to come to me when you're saying this. It's, you know, I mean, it all really amounts to the integrity of the people. I mean, the integrity of the hospital, the lawyers, the judges. I mean, who, you know, I mean, what are you really in things for?
Yeah, well, your idea is good. I mean, it makes sense to me, and that's what one of the weaknesses of capitalism, because of thrusting an economic, you know, some object or some idea, or including it. It's an inclusionary process. The litigation issues that the medical profession is suffering, and the high with those rates that keep the insurance for doctors malpractice. The malpractice rates are off the charts, and doctors can't even provide themselves a living anymore because the legal aspects of what they do are they're so impinged. I had a program with a doctor who's coming on next month, who's kind of upset about why we even need insurance. He's a surgeon. He's preferring to go to the concierge practice rather than have litigation or pay high insurance rates. You want me? This is what you want. This is what you get. He has them sign off on it so they can't sue them, and it's a great. I mean, after all, he went to all that school and he was such a professional. He's such a good heart surgeon. Why should he suddenly be scrutinized by the medication he decides that he wants to use to help a patient? And some of it, like you said, is abusive. Some of the medications that are used are abusive. So I mean, you have this big cross going over in healthcare. Healthcare is a big mess right now.
I started to think about this one case in this documentary, Money and Medicine, and where, you know, it was the old woman, this guy's mother. You know, she, of course, she was not really present, you know, occupying her body anymore. Like, you know, mentally she wasn't there, and you know, she was being kept alive on life support.
Yeah.
And you know, the son. You know, I don't know, there was some like ridiculous amount of money, like I can't remember if it was 5 million or 5 billion. I had to be 5 million. I don't know.
Yeah.
But keeping this woman alive on life support for like 9 months.
Right.
And, you know, and I just thought like that's when, you know, money is actually creating harm. Even, you know.
What would you do? What would you do without it? You have to think about what would you do without it.
I mean, it's all about keeping it in its place. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like you can't be using money to, you know, to just keep, you know, to be like. I'm trying to think of the right word.
Catherine, maybe this might answer. The mediators think of ourselves as doing God's work. We think of ourselves as doing the right thing for the least amount of impact, least amount of negative impact. And I truly believe that if we were allowed to, if we were kind of not forced, but if we were kind of led towards mediating by some process, before we would litigate, that we would save anguish and resources in the millions of dollars every year. There wouldn't be any. You notice how many court buildings you have? You notice that there's a new parking lot in every court building lately, and you can't get them big enough because people are running to the courts because that's the system that we provide for them, and they're not looking at the option.
Yeah,
it's not working. So let's decide to change it.
that's the sad reality. I know. It's like everybody, and that's just it. Like people are going to find out the hard way. I mean, we're the Occupy movement, whatever, they've been trying to wake people up to capitalism and income inequality and things like that, and how the monetary system doesn't really work, and unfortunately, like some people might have to find out.
There may be some changes coming up here that we have to discuss how we might want to change things. But to say that we weren't the most prolific and most powerful and best type of government in the history of the human condition, is not arguable. We are and we were. Do we need to make changes? I would probably say yeah. I go along with you. I think there is plenty of room. There should be plenty of room to make changes. Because obviously there's a lot of things wrong with what we got.
I mean, money needs to be the servant, not, the God.
Mm-hmm.
Like we shouldn't be being a slave.
The only thing about that doesn't work in my head. This is my head talking. It's not really what I thought here. But if you don't have, how many countries invent things anymore? How many countries develop new processes for engineering, germs or disease, or invent things anymore? Hardly anybody ever does. Hardly any socialist country does. So to have another option other than socialism or another option other than capitalism is definitely a viable possibility. But I don't know where those lines can be drawn. But I do know that in the direction that it seems to be drawing towards, this equality aspect is going to minimize the entrepreneur's ability to make decisions, to move. I mean, you'd be the same as everybody else. Is that what you want? Do you consider yourself the same as everybody else?
Okay.
I don't.
What do you mean? Like people aren't supposed to be the same, equal, or?
Right. That's exactly right. There is no exact equality. People are all different.
Well,
you can't manage. You can't have a government manage that. You can have life manage it. That's why we have the system we have. At least it was working for a while. I mean, admittedly, it has its problems now.
I mean, as long as children being born into the world have what they need, and people start off more or less with a good beginning, so that they at least have some leverage and an edge in life. But when you don't even have your basic needs met, physically or even emotionally, like these children in these divorces are going to be,
that's where I fit in. Yeah, that's what I believe. I believe that that's exactly right. If we don't at least start somewhere, what's the most important institution? The marriage institution, the family. The family is the most important institution.
That's what scares the crap out of me. I mean, to be honest, like, I vow to never grow up and be a single parent, and okay, I managed that. I mean, I never had kids because I didn't want to repeat what I grew up with, and it just takes too much work to really overcome it, and especially when you're living in a society that doesn't really promote that. And I know so many people that grew up in two-parent families that are now single parents doing what I vowed I would never do and pass on to children,
That's that culture of divorce we have. We're all kind of lined up together now, linking arms and heading in the direction of if I don't get my stuff, if I don't get what I want, I'm leaving. So we have this throwaway society mentality, and we decide, what, I've had enough of this, I'm getting out. Now, I'm not saying that I never had those feelings. I'm just saying that people do have those feelings, and they've become more comfortable. They've become entrenched in the culture. So now we all have this connected brotherhood of dysfunction of the culture. It's all together. It's a brotherhood dysfunction. We all want to. We don't want to suffer. We don't want to work at anything. We don't want to apply our efforts. We don't want to be independent. We just want to give it up.
I think I think it's like all part of our destruction of nature. Any part of nature, whether it's the environment, water, food, animals, the family system, like anything that is free, anything that's supposed to be free, just ends up being commodified, and the family system is just another thing that's just being commodified in our society.
Interesting word, commodified.
Isn't it a word?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Oh, I don't.
I'm not sure.
So, you said you were related to Joe DiMaggio?
Yes. It's a third cousin.
Like, did you know him?
I met him. I have some pictures of him. One picture of him and I together, and I have some pictures of him when I was there when the pictures were taken. But I was 5 years old, crawling underneath the table.
Right.
After Joe DiMaggio retired, our family he spent his time in the Bronx, and I have some pictures there that were taken at that house, which was my grandfather's house.
Did you never got to meet Marilyn Monroe, did you?
No, I wish I did. No.
Yeah, really, right? That would have been nice.
Missed that opportunity.
What do you remember of him? What can you tell us about him?
Well, there's been so many books written about him, but there's two things that stick out. One of them is that he was kind of reclusive. He did not like the limelight. He did not like to be interviewed. He didn't particularly care whether anybody with a microphone was there or not there, and pretty much shied away from it. And he lived his life somewhat independent and quiet, and just wanted to, as he always said many times, I just want to play baseball. I just want to be baseball. So he didn't appear to be. The media made him appear to be more than reclusive. That he was kind of angry with them, and that he had an edge about the media. He really just didn't want to be bothered.
I mean, good for him, because it sounds like, he was kind of smart, and he wasn't going to allow them to do exactly what we're talking about, was turn him into a commodity,
Exactly. I guess there's a good way to use that, commodify. He was commodified. He had commodified clothing on. It kept him away from being commodified.
I mean, I'm not sure if you probably know the story of Sid Barrett from Pink Floyd.
No.
That's what happened to that guy. Because here's this band, they're young guys. All he wanted to do was be an artist, was be creative, and he really he didn't like the I guess the stress. That being, like after they started to get famous and stuff, he really couldn't handle it. And that's, he was like withdrawing and he just and I think I'm like that too. I mean, there's a certain point that that you want to go to that's kind of healthy. You want to do what you like. You want to do what you love. But that's it. It's when the vultures or the the music people or the media come in and they want to start hounding you and turning you into what they want to turn you into.
Yeah, as soon as somebody develops a talent, everybody's after you is a fairly common thing, and that happens in all cultures. That happens in all cultures. Whoever is in power wants to get a hold of and share or borrow or steal that power that you have.
But I mean, they end up screwing it up. I mean, they end up interfering with the natural process of that person. That they end up destroying. And I think like the more creative a person, the more sensitive they are. The more susceptible they might be, like perhaps even Joe DiMaggio, to being
He singled himself out. He kept out of the expectation. He moved himself away from that. What was, as you're suggesting, away. So I guess in a lot of ways he was his own man. He was principled and dedicated. And as if you remember the story about how he loved Marilyn Monroe, you remember that he didn't ever really want to have any other relationship. He stayed in love with her until she died.
Yeah. Do you have any opinions on who killed her?
On his children?
No,
yeah.
on who killed Marilyn Monroe?
Oh no. I mean, I'm no expert in that area. I have a feeling about it, but that's only a feeling. It doesn't really amount to much. I think that the people who were helping Kennedy, who were upset with Kennedy, were also upset with Marilyn. I think that had to happen at the same time. The Kennedys.
So we only have like less than a minute. Do you have a website, or you want to?
Well, our website's being changed again because of my television show. I'm separating the link. My TV show does some edgy issues, and my mediation show is all about being it together. That's www.fitmediation.com. fitmediation.com. Right, and the TV is going to be separated now. We haven't got the website up yet, but we'll eventually have a link that goes from there to the TV show, so you can watch hot button political issues too.
Awesome. Okay, Chris, I appreciate your being on.
Thank you for having me, Catherine. I appreciate it. It was fun.
We'll be in touch and keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
You're listening to Awake Radio, straight talk for the awake and aware.